أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our second session together with the SBA team. And inshallah, I will pass it on to Brother Idris Bello, who will welcome our guest as well as moderate the session today. Over to you, Brother Idris. You are on mute. Let me, there we go.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It is a pleasure to kick off the second edition of our SBA and small business program and speaker sessions. And the last time we had a general overview of all the ways we could work with SBA. And today we are kicking off the intensive session with this government contracting session. We're pretty glad to Elizabeth was helped to facilitate this, and Ida was come to join us, and to every one of you. Again, we hope this is going to be the second of many sessions that we have, and over the course of the year, we'll have other sessions depending on the needs of the business owners and entrepreneurs here, and also the opportunities. So without wasting much more time, I think I will hand over to Elizabeth at this point to introduce the speaker and the format, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So first and foremost, we want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. We're so thankful to you and your team for allowing us to come in and speak about the Small Business Administration. Before we get started today, I did want to go ahead and give a brief overview of SBA, just in case you did miss the last session. It's going to be very brief, and then we're going to go into the feature presentation. We do want you to note that this presentation is being hosted on December 19th, 2024, and SBA's participation is not an endorsement of the views, opinions, products, or services of any other person or entity. In fact, all SBA programs are extended to the public on a non-discriminatory basis. So we want to go ahead and get started by letting you know a little bit about the Small Business Administration. Our Houston district office, we cover the 32 counties that surround Houston. So that's everywhere from Washington County all the way to the Louisiana state line. So chances are, if you're on this call, we are your local district office, and we're so happy to be here to be able to present to you some of the information on the SBA. So how does the SBA actually help you as an entrepreneur? We did talk about this in the last session, and in case you missed it, we help in 4 different ways, which is counseling, capital, contracting, and crisis. And so through counseling, we have an SBA resource partner network here in the Houston area. These are your local district office Houston resource partners. These are the Texas Gulf Coast Small Business Development Center, SCORE Houston, the Veterans Business Outreach Center, and we do have 3 women's business centers: the WBEA Women's Business Center, the Alliance Women's Business Center, and the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce Women's Business Center. When I pass the mic over to Ida, she'll be talking a lot to you about certifications, but I do want you to know that if you do need any assistance going through any of these processes, these resource partners are there to be able to help you for starting, growing, expanding your business. The second C that we help with is access to capital. This is to be able to provide you startup-friendly, competitive terms, lower down payments, longer maturities for accessing capital so that you can be able to start or expand your business, purchase or renovate a facility in which it's going to be owner-occupied. Maybe you need inventory, equipment, or working capital, then definitely consider SBA guaranteed loans for that. Also, we want to reiterate, crisis does happen, and so we want you to know that we want your business to be prepared. You can visit sba.gov/prepare to make sure that your business has an up-to-date plan of action. And just note that when disaster does strike, the Small Business Administration is there offering disaster assistance loans that are low interest and long-term for those declared disasters that happen. As we know, it's not a matter of if, but when. And last but certainly not least, the reason that you are on the call today is to learn about federal contracting. And so if you're ready to consider federal contracting, just note the world's largest customer buying all kinds of goods and services is the federal government, and we are required by law to provide these contract opportunities to small businesses. So today we have with us Ms. Ida Benson, our Business Opportunity Specialist for the SBA's Houston District Office, to present to you on federal contracting and the certifications that you see on your screen at this moment. I'm going to go ahead and pass the virtual mic over to Ms. Ida as she starts to share her screen and provides you the information on our federal contracting programs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction, Liz. I am looking for my presentation right now. Give me 1 second. Okay, are you all able to see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So again, thank you so much for that introduction, Liz. My name is Ida Benson. I'm a business opportunity specialist with the Small Business Administration. And I'm going to be talking today a little bit about actually how do you get started with selling to the federal government and what does that look like? As we move through, are we okay with answering questions as we move through the presentation? Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay. And there will be time for Q&A at the end of your presentation for sure.
So Liz kind of briefly touched on it. Like, why would you want the federal government as a customer? So in 2022, the federal government spent $700 billion. And the goal for small business set aside was 23%, which we met that goal, which equaled $163 billion that flowed into the small business community across the nation. And when we talk about that, there are several ways that the government goes about assuring that small businesses get their slice of the pie. And one of those things are the set-aside contracts. So we have micro purchases, which is anything up to $10,000. We have simplified acquisitions up to $250,000. And then we have total small business set-aside, which is that would be competitive offers. So these simplified acquisitions and micro purchases, to the greatest extent possible, should always be awarded to small businesses. So those smaller contracts are lower hanging fruit as far as federal contracting, to the greatest extent possible, is always awarded to small businesses. And this is by law. This is not something that, we just say. These are laws that are set up in place to ensure that the agencies contract small businesses with these contracts that are less than $250,000. We also have something called the Mentor Protege Program. This program is designed as a business development program. So if you have a business that is your competitor, maybe he's a large business, he or she is a large business, you have the option to create a mentor protege relationship so they can mentor you and help develop your small business. The reason they will want to do that is because of the joint venture program, because the joint venture program is the contracting aspect of that relationship. The joint venture program allows you as a small business to create a new business with your mentor, and that would allow you to give you the capacity and the experience to go after larger opportunities that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to go after on your own. That partner, your mentor / joint venture partner, that will allow them access to dollars that belong to the small business community that ordinarily they wouldn't be able to gain access to because they don't fit into that small business category. So it's beneficial for both parties when creating the joint venture. The SBA does not match small businesses with mentors, mainly because you need to know who you're doing business with and have some idea of how that individual runs their business on a day-to-day basis, because the ideals that you have when running business may not align with that other individual. And so that's one of those situations where you really need to know that person and have some general idea of how they run their business on a day-to-day basis to know whether or not you match as partners. We also have 7J training. 7J training is online training that's available to all small businesses. This allows small businesses access to information about how do you create a joint venture? How do you put together a proposal? Information that is a little bit different from federal contracting. And so this training is set up to help train you and educate you on how to do those things, and hopefully prevent some of those pitfalls you have when you're learning a new aspect of contracting. We also have subcontracting opportunities. We have a lot of prime contractors who have government contracts, and they have subcontracting goals for the small business community. So that's another way to do business with the federal government, but not as a prime, but as a subcontractor as well, to get that experience that you'll need to prime on federal opportunities. So when you're getting started, what does that look like? So first you need to research your next codes. Those next codes describe whatever product or service you plan to sell to the federal government. It's a 6-digit code, and you can have more than one next code because most small businesses provide more than one service or one product. Then you need to register your company at sam.gov. Sam.gov is not an option, it is an requirement to register. So you have to register your company at sam.gov. As part of sam.gov, you may have heard of a cage code. A cage code will be assigned to your company, and also a UEI number that stands for Unique Entity Identifier. Previously, we were using a different code, but now we actually assign these codes ourselves. It was a DUNS number we were using, but we no longer use those DUNS numbers. So SAM would actually assign you your UEI, and we no longer use the DUNS numbers anymore. Next, you want to contact one of our local resource partners, Apex Accelerators. Apex Accelerators provide small businesses who want to do business with the government at any level. This is a free service, and it's a great way for you to become familiar with government contracting. And it doesn't matter whether you're trying to work with the city of Houston, the state of Texas, or the federal government. Apex Accelerators can assist you with that process and going through registration, applying for certification, as well as putting together proposals to bid on opportunities. Then when you're looking for federal opportunities, you can also do that at sam.gov as well. In the past few years, the government has began to combine websites, so you don't have to go to 5 or 6 places in order to accomplish one goal. And one of those things is the federal opportunities are also listed at sam.gov. So anything that's over $25,000 will be advertised on sam.gov. You can also do market research here as well. You can go back and look at opportunities that were previously awarded or advertised for. You can see who won that award, and also see when that opportunity will be advertised again if it's something that you are interested in and you want to make sure you bid on it the next time the government purchases that product or service. And also contacting small business specialists. Small business specialists are very important to the small business community because they are that in between the federal agency and your business. They can help you figure out, how does that agency buy that product or service? When do they buy that product or service? Who can you contact to get additional information about that contract? You know, the contracting officers. They can help connect you with those individuals so you can get the questions answered that you need so you can be prepared when the government is purchasing a product or service in the future. And then with federal contracting, marketing is extremely important because you won't just be marketing to your local area. You could potentially be marketing across the country to any of the 50 continental states as well as our surrounding territories. So it just depends on what product or service you're selling, what your market area would be. So you just want to make sure that, you know, you are prepared to market because it's very important with federal opportunities. So we operate based on FAR regulations. FAR 19.201 primarily talks about the small business community and how the government does business with the small business community. I'm not saying you have to read every single line and memorize it, but you should become familiar with some of the laws and regulations regarding small businesses selling to the federal government, just to educate yourself on how that's done on a day-to-day basis. So next, we're gonna move into talking about the SBA certification programs. Do we have any questions before we move forward? Okay. So before we talk about certifications, do you actually have to be certified in order to do business with the federal government? No, you do not. You don't have to apply for any certifications if you would like, if that's not something you want to do. What you do have to do is register in SAM.gov. Registration is a requirement, certification is not. So if you decide, I don't want to apply for any of the certification programs, you can still self-certify yourself as a small business and go after and look for opportunities and submit bid proposals for opportunities that you qualify for. So getting the most out of your certification. So certification allows for the government to set aside or sole source contracts to small businesses. It increases the opportunity to prime on contracts as well as subcontract on opportunities that you may not have the capacity to prime on, but you can provide subcontracting assistance. This is an opportunity to build your capacity, grow your business by establishing joint ventures, and also participate in the mentor protege program to develop your business further. You can gain access to training, management, and technical assistance programs. We also have guaranteed loans and bonding assistance available for small businesses as well. So the first program we're going to start with is the SBA 8A Business Development Program. This program is really unique because it is only 9 years. This is a one-time certification. Your business as well as the disadvantaged owner can only participate with this program one time for 9 years. You have to own that disadvantaged individual needs to own 51% or more of the company, manage and operate that company on a day-to-day basis. You also need to be an American citizen by birth or naturalization. You have to be socially and economically disadvantaged for this program. Manage the business on a full-time basis, on a day-to-day basis. You cannot have outside employment for this program, meaning that if you're currently employed and receive a W-2 from a company, you would have to resign from that business in order to participate in the 8A BD program. You need to be able to demonstrate the potential for success and also show good character. Good character, one thing is if you currently have, let's say you owe taxes to the IRS, that's not a problem to owe taxes to the IRS. As long as you have a payment plan that you put together with the IRS and you are making those payments as scheduled, then you won't have any issues with applying for the 8A program. Let's say you have a student loan, but you are currently in default on that student loan, then that will make you ineligible for the 8A program. But if you have a student loan and you're making your payments as scheduled, then you would not have any issue. So when we talk about controlling management, we're talking about that disadvantaged individual that owns 51% or more of the company should have the highest position, whether you title yourself as a president or CEO or managing partner, you should hold the highest position in the company. You should also be the highest compensated individual, have the ability to hire and fire employees, maintain 51% or more ownership at all times, the ability to commit the company to contracts, control the budget, and again, you cannot have outside employment, and that again is if you are receiving a W-2. If you receive a 1099 from a company, that is not considered outside employment. If you have not been in business for 2 years or more, but you still feel like you would be a great match for the 8A program, then you can request a waiver. And when you request that waiver, they'll be looking at your past business management, your technical expertise, making sure you have adequate capital, looking at whether or not you have past performance and your ability to meet requirements for that contract. And so they'll be taking a look at all of that to make sure that you meet these standards. And if you do, then they would consider waiving that 2-year rule to apply for the program. When we talk about ownership, that does not mean that different structures are their issue with your structure. It doesn't matter whether or not you're a sole proprietorship, you have a partnership, an LLC, or a corporation. As long as you own and control 51% or more of the company, your structure is not an issue for the SBA. So we do have some companies that are ineligible for the certification. One of those being a broker. If you have ever been debarred or suspended on a federal contract, nonprofits are not eligible. Some franchises are eligible, but you will need to go in to the franchiseregistry.com to check and make sure that that franchise is eligible for SBA services. Again, the business and the individual can only apply and participate in the 8A program one time in a lifetime. And any person that has used their disadvantaged status to qualify from another company is not considered a disadvantaged individual, and you've used up your 8A certification opportunity. Next, we're going to be moving on.
Before we go on to veteran owned, can we touch base with a question that's in the chat? It says, is it a hard disqualification for the W-2 and 8A eligibility? Did not find this on the website, but it'd be nice to get clarification. If the business is functioning on a day-to-day, but the owner still has a W-2 job, would this be allowed on a case-by-case basis?
No, it would not. You cannot have outside employment coming into the 8A program. You would have to resign from that position because as part of the 8A program, you have to operate the business full-time on a day-to-day basis. And the way they view it is if you're working a full-time job, then how can you devote full-time to the business as well?
Thank you. That's the only question we have for now.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Sure.
So this is a requirement just for the program, not all contract on the SAM.gov, correct?
Right. This is just for 8A only.
Okay.
And actually, outside employment actually does not apply to any of the other certification programs, only 8A. Any other questions before we move forward?
I don't see any. I think you're good to go.
Okay. So next, we're going to talk about the veteran-owned small business certification. This is one of the newest certifications for the SBA. And this is specifically for individuals who are veteran or service-disabled veterans. They need to own 51% more of the company. Of course, you have to be a small business. And if you are a veteran that is permanently or totally disabled, your spouse or your permanent caregiver can also qualify for this program. That is the only qualifications for a veteran-owned small business. The qualifications are pretty simple. Because this is one of our newest programs, we have a lot of different ways that you can contact individuals if you have additional questions about applying for this certification. So you can go to SBA.gov, you can email, or you can give them a call Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 p.m. Eastern time as well. In our Houston area, I don't know if this is part of your information, Liz, but we also have a veteran business outreach center. And Mr. Flores is not in the Houston area, but he often visits the Houston area, and he's always available for questions about the veteran-owned certification. Next, we're going to talk about the women-owned small business certification. So, of course, 51% or more ownership, that is with all of the certifications. You should hold the highest position. This program is a little different because not all next codes are included with the woman-owned small business certification. So you would have to visit SBA.gov/WOSB and take a look at the list of next codes that are included with this program. They're going to be looking to make sure you have the appropriate and managerial experience. They're going to be looking at whether or not you manage the business on a day-to-day basis. And this program does not require you to be in business any minimum amount of time. So if you have started the business and last week and everything is up and running, you can apply for this certification. It does not require you to be in any business a minimum amount of time, but they will want you to make sure that you manage this business on a daily basis. So if you have outside employment, meaning that you receive a W-2, you want to make sure that it is clear when you apply for this program that W-2 employment will not interfere with you running that business on a day-to-day basis. So part of the WOSB program, you also, of course, you have to be a U.S. or naturalized citizen. The woman must make all the long-term decisions for the business, and she must also work full-time during normal working hours, meaning Monday through Friday, roughly 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. is what is considered normal working hours. So although we don't say you can't have outside employment, we do want to make sure that you're available during normal working hours. Because if you aren't, then how are you able to, if a contracting officer is trying to contact you to ask questions about services, but you're at a full-time job Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, then you wouldn't be able to answer those calls, and they would, have a breakdown in communication with the agency that's trying to procure services from your company. So network criteria. The network criteria is for 8A firms, veteran-owned firms, as well as economically disadvantaged women-owned small businesses. So your personal net worth cannot exceed $850,000. Your personal assets cannot exceed $6.5 million, and your personal income cannot exceed $400,000 over a 3-year average. When we're talking about net worth, we are going to remove the equity out of your primary residence, as well as the equity out of your business, and adjust that accordingly for your net worth. Liz, do you have any questions?
Not at
Nothing
this
so far.
time. Yeah, but if you guys have questions, don't forget, please put them in the chat. We'll be happy to get those questions answered for you.
Okay. So our last program is our HUBZone program, not to be confused with the state of Texas HUB program. This program is designed for certain areas that are considered historically underutilized. And the program is designed to increase employment opportunities, and stimulate the capital investment in that area, empower communities through economic leveraging, and also to grow the area. And it's specifically based on where the company is located. You would have to go into SBA.gov/HUBZone, physically put your address into the system to check to see whether or not you are in a HUBZone. If you are in a HUBZone, 35% of your employees also must reside in the HUBZone as well. They don't have to live in the same HUBZone where your company is located, but at least 35% of your employees must reside in a HUBZone. So after you put your address in and determine that your company is in a HUBZone, you also need to put your employees' addresses in to make sure they are in a HUBZone as well. So when we talk about set-aside opportunities for our certification programs and our socioeconomic categories, we're talking about the federal government. Their current goal is 26% for contracting to the small business community. They have set aside 5% to women-owned small businesses, 13% to small disadvantaged businesses to include the 8A certification, 3% to HUBZone businesses, and then 5% to service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. So that means that overall the goal is 23%, but within that 23%, they have these targeted goals for women, small disadvantaged, HUBZone, and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. When you are looking at identifying contracting opportunities, you want to go to www.sam.gov. Again, this is where you will register. You can do market research, but it's also where you find contract opportunities. So again, anything over $25,000 is going to be advertised at sam.gov. You can also use this these opportunities will give you contact information, a point of contact for an individual that the contracting officer that is monitoring these opportunities. So if you need to contact them to ask questions, you can do that. You can also contact the small business specialist as well. They're going to be vital to helping you determine how the agency buys their products and services and how you can be a part of that. You want to look at subcontracting opportunities. There's a directory of prime contractors with subcontracting plans. So you want to take a look at that. So you might want to target some of these prime contractors and market your products and services to start doing business with these primes for federal contracting dollars to get that experience. GSA has a directory for subcontracting. Department of Transportation has a subcontracting directory as well. We also have something called Subnet. Subnet is on SBA.gov, and again, it is our subcontracting opportunities that primes are looking for. So these are ways that you can get into federal contracting without actually having a prime contract, but also gain some experience as well. So market research, we have a lot of different resources for market research as well, because again, you want to know what agency is buying your product or service, and you want to make sure that you're marketing yourself to the correct agency. So the Federal Procurement Data System, FPDS.gov, you can go and look at contracts that have been awarded, and you can find out who is currently awarded that contract, how much money the agency has paid out on that contract, when the contract was awarded, as well as when the contract will expire. So you can start preparing yourself when it is advertised again. USAspending.gov will give you a lot of that same information as well. SAM.gov will give you a different set of information. It will give you who it was awarded to, but it will also tell you, who was the top 5 people who bid on that contract but didn't win the contract. It will give you a breakdown of how the point system was awarded for that contract also. So you can see, how many points went to different sections of the proposal, so you can prepare for that as well. Acquisitions.gov will give you the procurement forecast for the federal agencies, meaning what will they be looking for in 2025, 2026, as well as 2027. Some agencies like NASA forecast 2 to 4 years out. So you can have an idea of what the agency is thinking about purchasing, 2 years from now. So if it's something that you're interested in, you can start preparing, marketing, networking, talking to different individuals that may have something to do with that procurement, and getting a good idea of what it entails and how or when you need to be prepared to submit a proposal for that opportunity. You want to make sure you contact the agency offices for small business programs. And then, of course, the DOD also has a directory for prime contractors that you may want to look up and market to for subcontracting opportunities. So one of the things that's very important is developing a lead for the federal marketplace. So you want to look at what federal agencies are purchasing your products or services. How much do they buy? When do they buy it? Do the awards set aside? Do they set aside things for the small business community? Who are your competitors? Who has previously bid on that contract? Who currently has that contract? That will tell you who your competitors are. And you also want to know who holds the current contract. Again, you can also see how much money they have been paid on that contract. You want to make sure you look up when that contract is going to expire so you can be prepared in the future.
Let's stay on that note for a little bit. One of the questions we have is, when bidding for the federal government's contracts, how do I know how much the government is willing to pay for the contract in order to not underbid or overbid?
That's gonna go, normally You won't. Let me just say that you won't know because the government is not going to tell you what their estimate is. When you're putting together a proposal, you are putting together the best price that you can offer, whatever that product or service is. What you can do is in figuring out how to pricing or whether or not your price is too low or too high. If you don't win the proposal and it's not awarded to you, you can go back and request that you receive Liz, what word am I looking for? I don't know.
Clarification, justification?
Right, clarification, but you can go back and request a debrief. I'm sorry, a debrief. It's called a debrief. And you can go back and request a debrief from the contracting officer so they can tell you why you didn't win. So that will help you figure out where your issue is with your proposal and what you need to fix the next time you submit a proposal. But the agency won't tell you what their estimate is. You just have to put together based on, what pricing will work for you. The government is not asking you to give a free or, this rock bottom price. They're asking for a fair price. And you want to make sure the price is fair, because you don't want to be put in a position where you underbid and you get awarded that contract and you potentially lose money on that contract. So you just have to put the best pricing guide together for your company, submit the bid, and if you don't win, go back and ask for a debrief so you can figure out why you didn't win. So you can put together a better proposal the next time.
Someone asked here, can you lose a bid because you bid too low?
Yes, it is possible to lose a bid if you bid too low. If you bid so low that the federal government, that if you are so below the federal government's estimate, they may feel like it's not possible for you to perform at that price. So it is possible. Now, a lot of times they will come back and ask you, how did you get to this pricing? They can ask you questions because they'll come back and ask questions if they don't understand how you got to a certain price. But yes, it is possible because the government may feel like it is just not possible for you to perform well at that price. And they may ask you why you priced it so low or how can you possibly perform that low? Because it could be that maybe your competitors are priced too high and maybe your pricing is the better range of pricing than what they have. But they can come back and ask you why it's so low.
Another question here is, can you share more insight on the key details to focus on drafting a proposal?
Well, every proposal is a little bit different. So when you're looking at an RFP, the agency is going to tell you exactly what information they're looking for. They tell you exactly how they want the information presented, and you just need to follow along with what they request from you. I had a conversation this week with an agency, and basically the agency told me that, the small businesses did not answer the questions that they asked. They submitted information, but they didn't actually answer the questions. And because of that, they didn't consider them for that opportunity. So you have to read what they are asking for and respond according to what they are asking for. No more, no less. They just want the information that they're requesting and they want that information answered. And so when you're putting together a proposal, the agency is going to tell you exactly what they're looking for, what section they want certain information in, and how they want that information presented. And you just need to follow along with what they are requesting.
Can I ask a follow-up on the bidding question? So in the process where you bid too low, can you come back and put a new number? Is that going to be approved? Okay.
You can't come back and change because once you submit that proposal and it closes, that's it. After it closes, those proposals will be opened and reviewed. And they'll start recording all the information and making a determination and weeding out, companies that definitely don't make the cut, and they may whittle it down from 20 proposals to 5 proposals. Now, when they get to those 5 proposals, sometimes if they have questions, they will come back and ask you questions. And if the agency feels the need to, they may come back and ask you to adjust or give them new estimates. That normally happens when the proposal, it has been out for a really long time, and they may ask you to adjust your numbers because maybe they may feel like the numbers or the estimates that you gave 6 months ago may not still be relevant. Maybe like, because we have inflation, the way inflation is right now, they will give you the opportunity if it's something that they feel like, outside sources have directly affected the numbers that you submitted and the estimates that you gave. But that would be from the agency side to ask that, not from your side.
No other question on the chat.
Okay, that's all. Thank you. So, I'm actually coming to the end also. Again, if you want, the SBA website has a lot of information for small business. There's also training available as well. You can sign up for all of the workshops and events that we are participating in on our website as well. Again, my name is Ida Benson. I'm a business opportunity specialist. I also have a counterpart, Jesus Gomez, that if you have questions that you want answered after we finish here today, you can always give us a call. We have another individual that works in procurement called Nigel Hurd. She's a procurement center representative, and she works with small businesses as well. But one of her primary goals is to make sure that the agencies are setting aside opportunities for small businesses. So let's say, so when you look at SAM.gov, you will see something that's called a source of salt. So a source of salt is the federal agency doing market research to determine whether or not who can perform on this product or who can perform on these services. So they're doing market research, and one of the ways they do that is a source of salt. And they will put out a source of salt, and you respond to the source of salt. The responding to a source of salt is very important to the small business community because it tells the contracting officers that there are small businesses out there that can perform this work, and they can set it aside for the small business community, and it doesn't have to go full and open. If you see something, that's out, that's advertised, and you say, hey, this could have went to a small business. There are a ton of small businesses who can perform this. You can contact Ms. Nigel Hurd and ask her, why was this procurement not set aside for a small business? And she can go back and do research to figure out why the agency didn't set something aside for a small business. It could be that, we did the market research and no one responded to the source of salt. That's one of the reasons why source of salt is very important to respond to, because it tells the agency that there are small businesses out there that can do this work. It doesn't have to go full and open. It can go total small business set aside, and for that community. So that's one of the things that Nigel Hurd does. She's that go-between between the SBA, the small business community, and the federal agencies to make sure that work is getting set aside. Every agency is also graded annually to make sure that they are reaching their goals and contracting to the small business community. And so she does that review and she grades the agencies, and then that information goes back to Congress. And if they don't meet their goal, which actually for the federal government, the last few years, we have met or exceeded the goal. They have to answer why they didn't meet the goal and what they plan to do next year to do a better job at meeting that goal for the small business community and for small business opportunities. That is all I have for today. Do we have any other questions?
So is it allowed to outsource the contract after winning it? For instance, by executing the tasks outside of the United States and bringing the final product to the United States?
If you're talking about, that would be manufacturing. So it really, if it's a manufacturing contract, it depends on what country you're gonna outsource from, because there are certain countries that, the federal government will not purchase from. If you're just talking about subcontracting out part of the services for the contract, you can subcontract part of the contract out. But there are subcontracting limitations based on what type of contract it is.
Software development is the example.
Software development? Possibly. It really depends on how the contract and how the agency has written the contract. They could say in that proposal that they do not want outsourced software. If they say that, then that will be something that you would need to develop. A lot of times we have software developers. It depends on what country it comes from, because a lot of services, the federal government has certain rules and regulations about purchasing from certain countries that you are not allowed to purchase from. So you would have to do a little more research, and it will also depend on how the RFP is written as to whether or not you can do that. And you also have to make sure that you are not exceeding the subcontracting limitations, because essentially, you have limits on how much of a contract, the total dollar value of a contract, you can subcontract out based on the industry that the contract is.
Those are the only questions I see right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have one more. So this is about Apex Accelerator, as well as for those that are not eligible for the 8A. It looks like everyone still needs to go through the Apex Accelerator. Can you clarify the role of Apex a little bit more, please?
So you don't have to go to Apex Accelerators to apply for the 8A program. That's not a requirement. But Apex Accelerator is a counseling center, and they can help you with your registration and help you complete the application. But it's not a requirement that you go to Apex Accelerator.
Okay.
And
So
that's level. So if you want to work with, whether it's the city of Houston, Metro, the port, or the federal government, they can help you at all levels of government.
okay. And do they need you to already have 2 full years of running your business?
For Apex Accelerators to be a client, no.
Okay.
You only need 2 years or more experience for applying for the 8A certification, but that's the only thing that requires that.
Okay, so you're not disadvantaged from winning a particular bid, even if you're just starting out your business, right? Because I know, it's competitive, right? There's so many people submitting proposals. So Apex would help you kind of see how to stand out. Is that how I'm seeing it?
Stand out. Apex will help you put together a great proposal package. That's what they would do for you. When you're putting together a proposal, they're gonna make sure that you've answered all of the questions that the agency has asked you, that you submitted all the information that the agency has requested from you. They'll make sure that your package is complete and you're submitting a really great proposal to the agency to have the best opportunity to win it.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other question from the chat?
I didn't see any. I was just taking a look. I didn't see any other questions.
Yeah, I have a question. It's a follow-up question to 8A program. So, for instance, if I have a company that I've registered maybe like 5 years, but I'm not operating it, it's still going to be allowed one way or the other for the 8A program?
Well, technically you would, you would qualify for the program. What your issue is going to be when they start looking at your information and they're trying to determine your potential for success. If you haven't been operating a business and you haven't been going out bidding on contracts or performing whatever service or product that you're selling, then they're wondering why would you apply for the 8A program if you're not actually working the business? And when do you plan to start working the business? Because when it comes to federal contract, you need past performance. But if you just had the company for 5 years, but you're not actually working the company, then you won't have any past performance. You won't even have any financial information to submit to the SBA when they start reviewing that application.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So
Hi,
in
my name is
that,
Ola. I don't know if this question has been asked earlier, but in terms of do they do their own due diligence in terms of their pricing, or are they relying on us to give them pricing structure and then they determine kind of price averages? That's one question. The other question is, like, to piggyback on the previous question that Joe was just asked, in terms of that past performances. So if you've been having losses, you run in a business, you've been having losses, is that seen as a negative, or how's that seen in terms of that 8A requirement?
Okay, so the first question was, repeat the first question for me again.
First question was in terms of, so I do some contracting, and the people I work with, they tend to have a guidance on their pricing. So for example, they want to buy chairs. They're like, all right, they've done their due diligence. They know this is how much, even if you put a markup on it, they know this is how much it's going to sell for. So my question is, do they do that, or are they relying on contractors to give them that guidance, and then they just pick the lowest bidder or the most?
No, they would have already completed their market research, and they will already have a guideline of how much they plan to spend. So they won't be depending on your numbers. They'll be looking at their numbers and then comparing it to what they have, and then comparing to what information you submitted. But they'll already have their estimates on approximately how much they think this service or these products should cost them. They'll already have an idea. So yeah, that's the way that will work. The next question was, you asked about the 8A certification and whether or not past performance, how much past performance plays with approval, correct?
So the next question was in regards to, you have the past performance, right? But your business has run losses when you're, because they're probably going to show that document. So you run your business, but you've run losses, give or take, right? But your business has been running, right? You can show evidence of receiving contracts from X or Y party. Is that seen as a negative?
It can be, but because you have not profited does not mean that they would deny you for the program. It can be a negative, but it just depends. Some companies are in the negative because maybe they had a bad year, or maybe they bought some type of equipment and it was really expensive, so they ended the year in negative. It really just depends on why you are in the negative. If you've been in business for 5 years and you are have never profited from the company, that may be a sign that maybe there's something, within the way you run the business on a day-to-day basis. And so the SBA may suggest that you go back and get some counseling to figure out what the problem is before you enter the program. But it really just depends on what the reason is. Just because you had a bad year, it wouldn't automatically disqualify you from the 8A certification.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I guess that's all the questions for now. And if there are any more questions, we can always share by email. You can collect them and share by email, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for inviting me today. It was a pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much. Is any last words or anything?
No, that's nothing from my end. You can close it off, but I do.
Okay, we'll surely be back again. I think as we continue to work with our entrepreneurs and businesses through the year to get these businesses going and contracting started. We'll reach out with questions when we have them, and when we have enough of an issue or a point that we need help on, we'll probably convene another session like this on specific training sessions. But thank you very much.
Thank you. You all have a good day.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.